It's not so much that Father Keen's sermons were boring. Sermons were boring anyway. There's something about the bobbing, melodic quality of an Irish priest's voice in full flow, just warbling on in the background as your thoughts drifted from the promise of eternal salvation to more worldly affairs. Before the first line of a Nicene Creed triggered muscle memory and up you sprung to join in. We believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty, the maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen. A sure moment of danger for all the adolescent males trying to subdue their 98th tumescence of the day. And there would have been a real gusto to Father Keen's voice whenever he launched into the Nicene Creed, a complete contrast to the cough-racked mumble of the sermon that preceded it. And I would endeavour to listen to all of Father Keen's sermons, probably because he took me for confession since I was 7 years old. Have you used any naughty words? No. Have you had any impure thoughts? No, especially not during your sermons. Have you been lippy with your mum and dad? Never. Anything else? Yes, I have lied. I like to think that somewhere up in the heavens God was preparing a thunderbolt for me for lying during confession before being forced to retract it after I confessed to lying. I didn't dwell on the paradoxical issue of God being powerful enough to create a law that he wouldn't be able to break. So there I would sit, hair neatly combed, hands on corduroyed knees, C&A shirt buttoned up tight, ready to take it all in. Now, I've been a part of a London poetry scene for over 20 years, so I know what it's like to talk to a room full of people and not have a single one of them listen to you. So I tried to picture the congregation through Father Keen's eyes. The children thinking about being superheroes. The teenagers thinking about sex. The mothers thinking about whether the teenagers were thinking about sex. The fathers thinking about being superheroes. I wonder if he took in our boredom, savoured it for a second before delivering that line that would ensure our upstanding, pee-the-bed compliance. And I can only imagine how he looked that one fateful Sunday when Father Keen uttered these cataclysmic lines. I won't be giving a sermon tonight because James Bond's on the television. No doubt there would have been a mixture of barely concealed glee and abject horror. Glee because we weren't going to miss James Bond on the television tonight. Horror because Father Keen was the external vessel, the one who believed, obeyed and abstained on our behalf. Tibetan Buddhists had prayer wheels. We had dog-collared men from the west coast of Ireland with 50s haircuts, thick-rimmed specs and a 60-a-day smoking habit. Now, I first knew of James Bond films through playground whisperings way before I first watched one. So I had my own internal image of the opening gun barrel sequence where Bond, viewed from the swirling interior of a pistol, would fire off a shot of his own, triggering a sudden stream of blood, turning the screen black as the gun barrel's aperture became a wandering wormhole into a forbidden fantasy world. Or, to put it into the playground parlance of the time, there's these eyes looking at James Bond, and then James Bond shoots the eyes in the eyes, and then all blood comes down the eyes because they're dead. Now, your first Bond is often the one that you stick with, so Roger Moore became Bond to me, so you can imagine my disappointment on getting home that fateful Sunday to find Bond being played by some tall, dark, alpha male imposter. Who the hell was this Sean Connery anyway? Where was the cowbell during his gun barrel sequence? Why didn't he wear safari suits? Where were the double-taking pigeons and hover gondolas? When he defused a bomb, why didn't he dress up as a clown? But all of these things would have been far from Father Keen's mind as he settled in for an evening of high adventure. As far as vices went, this would be the least of the church's hypocrisies, especially when another priest's work in offering shelter and sustenance to rent boys was discovered a few years later. No one could begrudge him those few hours spent in a fantasy world where the orchestra always struck up whenever death was evaded, where stray bullets only ever hit the deserving and outlandish gadgets were always ensured their moment of utility. Father Keane is almost certainly consigned to the earth by now, but an image of him still plays in my head to this day. Not of the vestment-clad patriarch of a small Irish community on the outskirts of London, the last to enter and the first to leave the service before the gossiping and suburban sniping could resume. The image that remains of Father Keane to this day is of him sat alone at the counter of a local chip shop, Savoy chips splayed out on greasy paper, and how the first thing he always asked me wasn't about whether I was saying my prayers or being good. No, the first thing Father Keane asked me on looking up from his single man supper was, "Are you watching James Bond on the television tonight?"